You know what really bakes my beans, Andrew? You know what really cooks my grits when I'm watching a sci-fi film? Starting off hot today. Starting off with some anger. I don't know if I've ever brought this up on mic before, but we've covered multiple movies that do this. It's anytime there's future technology involved, they like to do transparent screens for like computers or for phones. I recently finished the show Upload on Amazon. Great show. I really enjoy it. But for phones, like they'll hold their hand out and a little screen appears in between their thumb and index finger. It's like FaceTime. And it's visible from the reverse side, which is why I hate this trope. We will never do this because you lose all privacy. Why would anybody want everyone on the other side of your screen to see everything that you're looking at? Not to mention, if the background is transparent, it makes it incredibly hard to read. There's a reason you have a solid color background. But like even intelligent sci-fi loves to do the transparent screen, and it drives me nuts. Andrew, it's downright dumb.
It's one of those things that's specifically done just because of the aesthetic. Like the aesthetic looks cool. Like that's it. There's no other practical reason for it. Like, and not just that, but like the notion of a transparent screen also has to be horrible from the perspective of using, because like obviously that means that whatever's on my screen, I'm also seeing through for what's behind my screen.
It's terrible.
And that's horrible. That's not what I want. And it's one of those things that they got the shows of the movies where like somebody's carrying around their phone and it's literally like a piece of glass almost, essentially is what it looks like. And it's like, no, I don't want this. Like it's one of those things where like, yeah, it's just purely based off of the aesthetic. And there's no practical reason for screens to suddenly be transparent all the time. It's just a look.
You know that movie, Her, Joaquin Phoenix movie?
Her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that takes place in the future.
Flew right by you, huh?
What, you saying Her? Was that you saying the word Her a reference to something that I'm not getting?
Yes, it was. But move on.
How deep is this cut? I'm supposed to pick up on the word Her.
Her? It's how I said it. That's the giveaway.
Okay, Andrew. Well, we can't. The listeners will not allow us to move on without you explaining what this reference is. Go embarrass me. What did I not understand?
It's Arrested Development.
Okay.
The girl Anne that Jason Bateman, and he's just like, yeah, Anne, and Jason Bateman several times is just like, her? To the point that in one of the later seasons, she's at her father's church, and it's like her eternal rapture, and the sign up on top is HER with like the question mark cross at the end, so that the literal church spells out her. So yeah, sorry. Anyway, folks, we can move on now.
It was a spot on Bateman impression, but
it was not. Stop it. Move on. I told you.
We watched Scott Pilgrim versus the World for Family Movie Night this week, so I saw and I don't know the actor's name, but she's in that.
Mae Whitman
in that movie. Anyway, what were we talking about? Transparent screen. Okay, the movie Her. It takes place in the future. I don't remember if they give you like a year, but obviously there's like really advanced AI, and if you look at what everyone is wearing, they have this like fashion has evolved in a very specific way. They have like high water pants and their collars are weird. It's all very thoughtful, very specific to like craft this world. And they have transparent computers.
You ever seen Bill and Ted 2?
I have, yeah.
The future fashion in that movie is one of the most baffling things I think I've ever seen in a movie. Like, it's just not practical at all. It's just like, it's like they found the most garish, obscene thing they could just to be like, it's the future.
I'm to be clear, transparent screens isn't ruining any movie for me.
Sure.
But like, I don't know, what elevated sci-fi or high concept sci-fi or like, serious sci-fi, it really stands out because like you're putting all this effort to think things through and then doing that. Like Bill and Ted.
Yeah, you're not expecting
we're just having
it's just
fun.
always stood out to me just how ridiculous it all is. Like it just how like especially when you compare like Rufus's look in the first movie to the second movie. And the first movie he's basically just wearing like a blue trench coat. By the second movie he's wearing this like foam rubber half jacket with these giant boots that's all beige, and it's just like what? I don't know. I still love it. That movie, have you like I don't know the last time you watched it, but
it's been a very long time. Is the second one when there's like those two little monsters that combine to form a big monster or something? Yeah.
It's the one where they go to hell. But there's that's one of my favorite lines is that. But it's the bit where like they go to hell, but from and up to the point that they go to hell, the movie's kind of dark, like needlessly, and you're just kind of like, this is really kind of a bummer. And then they challenge death. They finally realize they have to challenge death to return to life because that's what you do. And like obviously everybody thinks like Seventh Seal, like you challenge death to like a chess match or something. But I love that they're like, we're gonna play Clue. And then we're gonna play Battleship. And then we're gonna play electric football. And then, so like they challenge like because in my head I'm like, oh yeah, because if you're gonna challenge death to a game, you're gonna challenge it to something you're good at, like that you actually have a chance. So it's just such a great flip of that concept. But then after they win and they do find those aliens because they need help defeating the evil robot versions of themselves, which again, like you do. I love that they find them and they're baffled. They're just like, huh? And Death is the one who's just like, what? You thought the most brilliant scientists in the world would be from Earth? And they both look at each other and go, well, yeah. But it never occurred to them for a second that the greatest scientist in the universe wouldn't be on Earth. It's I probably just said the greatest scientist in the world would be from Earth, and
you did, but we
got
it, Andrew. We're with you.
Anyway,
if you had to challenge death to a game to win your life back, what would you challenge it to?
Probably one of the N64 No Mercy.
Okay.
WWF No Mercy on N64. Yes, there it is.
Good pick. All right. Theme song.
We're not talking about the best of them. We're just talking about the rest of them.
Not the worst parts, but the best parts. And the best parts we have. The best of the rest.
Hello and welcome to Best of the Rest. My name is Chris Logan, and I am joined, as always, by my cybernetic Berserker Warrior co-host, Andrew Williams. Say something to the listeners, Andrew.
Dang, you know what, Chris? I had a whole thing that I was going to say here, and it's gone, and I can't remember what it was. I was going to make some deep-seated reference, and now I cannot remember what it was. I'm sorry, everyone.
Is this because this is our second attempt to record this episode after technical difficulties 2 days ago?
Yeah, I don't. That's going to bug me. I had a whole reference I was going to make.
Well, if you think of it at any point in this recording, just throw it out there, even if I'm mid-sentence, and maybe I'll edit it in. I won't. Each week, we take a second look at a movie that was poorly received upon release and challenge ourselves to only talk about the things we like and what the movie does well. It's the farewell tour. And this week, we are talking the 2019 film Alita, Battle Angel. Andrew, what's your history with this movie? I don't think you saw it in theaters.
Nope.
What did you know of this movie before watching it this week for this podcast?
I'd seen clips of it. Like there were definitely things I remember. Like I don't know how I saw them. I don't know where they came from. But obviously I had heard that they this was something that you kind of heard James Cameron attached to for a long time, and then obviously Avatar came in and kind of took over, and basically it never got to a point that he was able to find the time to go back and do this. So I knew about James Cameron's involvement. I remember it being announced and it coming out. Like, I remember that whole period of time. But I just never got around to watching it. And so I'd seen clips. Like, I knew it was based off a manga. I knew it was something that had other anime adaptations over the years. I knew that obviously James Cameron was still involved as a producer. Obviously Robert Rodriguez. So I knew of it. I knew of its existence, and I kind of knew some of the long gestating history of the project, but I just never got around to watching it. I don't really know why, despite your endless urging that I should.
And now I finally found a way. I saw this movie in theaters, and it's not something I was hyped about. I'm not familiar with the manga. I never read it. I own it now because I love this movie. Still haven't read it though. My daughter read it. She said it was great, but I haven't gotten around to it. I love Robert Rodriguez. We've talked about it on the podcast before. Not to the point where I'm watching all of his movies in theaters, but I just we'll talk more about him in a minute. But all that is to say, I saw the trailers. I'm like, okay, this looks like it might be interesting. CG looks good, but I'm also always wary of I don't know, just a blatant CG fest that's gonna have no personality. Not that you look at the creators here, I don't necessarily think it's what's gonna happen, but when you see something so special effects heavy, or I don't speak for anybody else, so when I do, it's hard to get super excited about it because I've seen it go wrong so many times. But at any rate, 2019, me, friend of the show, my wife, we go see this in theaters. This is before my son was born, so we had that kind of free time and ability to do that. And I loved it. I was like, man, that was a blast. It was great. It looks great. I mean, I'm going to spend this whole episode praising this movie. I won't do it all here up top, but I really enjoyed it. And the movie doesn't exactly flop. We'll get to it, but it doesn't make a huge impression initially either. So I sort of found myself being just kind of championing this movie. Hey, have you seen this movie? Hey, friend Andrew, you seen this movie? That movie Alita, it's actually pretty good.
Seen this? Heard about this?
I grabbed the 4K sometime after I got the PS5, which comes with a 3D Blu-ray, and I'm one of those weird people that has a 3D TV, even though I
Nerd.
kind of hate watching movies in 3D, but I happen to have one, and so I try to grab 3D Blu-rays just because of the ability to watch them. So I've watched this movie, I don't know, it's not in theaters. I watched it when I got it. I watched it once in 3D just to say I did it. I rewatched it for this podcast. I've seen it a number of times. I'm a big fan. I'm excited to talk about it. Before we get too far, let's set the stage here. The movie was released February 14th, 2019. So we're recording this almost exactly, 7 years? 7 years after it came out? 7 years? It came out right before the pandemic. How's this movie 7 years old?
Chris, I really didn't appreciate what you did just now.
I did it to myself. I didn't appreciate it either.
I really don't appreciate that you've done this.
I know this has been discussed to death or whatever, but 2017, 18, 19, these years right up until the pandemic, they feel like they're 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know how long that feeling is going to last. But it has something to do, I think, with 2020 to 2023 kind of being compressed to one specific feeling that we don't look at it as a 3-year span. But I feel like 2019 movies just came out a couple years ago.
It's like when people talk about Avengers Doomsday coming out later this year. I'm like, what are you guys mad about? We just had, Endgame wasn't that long ago. And then they're like, dude, Endgame was 2019. And I'm like, what? No, it wasn't. So
this will be 7
years. You get to sit
years.
with that. You get to sit with it. Literally, Endgame comes out months after this.
I thought Endgame was end of the year, no?
April 26, 2019.
April.
So it's 2 months. It's 2.5 months after this.
When Doomsday comes out, it'll be over 7 years after.
It will be 7.5 years. It will be 7.5 years between Avengers movies. Which criticisms of the MCU aside, some of which I don't like, the fact that it was 7.5 years between Avengers movies, Marvel, that was a mistake. Period. Whatever.
Okay. Alita, made on a budget of $170 million. Not cheap. At the box office, it does bring in $404.9 million, so you can generously say it's at maybe a break-even point. Obviously below what they wanted with a budget like that. Critically, it's honestly kind of split. It's technically fresh on Rotten Tomatoes scale. It's a 61% critic score. Audience score, I'm very happy to see 91% audience score. That's what I like to see in a movie like this. People eating it up, championing this film. To this day, we'll talk about the potential future later on, but it's a hit with the people that do go see it, but smaller box office and sort of lukewarm critical reception on release.
Yeah, it's interesting because that was kind of my takeaway when I remember it kind of coming out, is that it did okay critically, and like you said, a very, very high audience score, to the point that, like you said, the people that did see it seemed to really enjoy it, and most critics enjoyed it. We're sitting right on that fresh line there, 61%. So it's like I said, critically, it's fine. It's obviously you're looking for something a little bit better than that. You're hoping for something that, obviously is a resounding hit, but unfortunately this one was not quite there. But take a look at this box office real quick, because it comes out President's Day weekend, which is also this weekend. So we'll do the President's Day weekend. It makes $33.5 million. This includes the Monday, to be clear. Wow. At number 2 in its second week of release is the Lego Movie 2. This doesn't feel real. Wow. At number 3 is a other new release called Isn't It Romantic?
Isn't It Romantic?
At number 4 is the What Men Want movie, which was the weird stealth flip of What Women Want. At number 5, also a new release that weekend, Happy Death Day to You.
Great movie.
Rounding out the top 10 is then Cold Pursuit, the Liam Neeson snowplow movie. Okay. The Upside, Glass, The Prodigy, and Green Book. And rounding it out at number 11, in its 10th week of release, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Coming in, taking its cumulative total at that point to $183 million. Aquaman at number 13. Ralph Breaks the Internet at number 15. Bohemian Rhapsody at number 18.
Boo. I expected, this movie is a lot more recent than a lot of stuff we cover on here, and I feel like when we did the Batman 89 box office, I recognized more movies than I did just now. You running that down.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't It Romantic? Okay.
The next week, it is knocked out of number 1 by How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, which is the third How to Train Your Dragon movie. Stays at number 2 with another. It has a big drop off, but it makes another 12 million, sitting at 61 million total. It holds at number 3, or it moves to number 3 the next weekend, knocked out of the number 2 spot by A Medea Family Funeral. All right. And then pretty much starts spiraling out the next week on March 8th, the release number 1, Captain Marvel, making $153 million, which is insane. But the next week, Captain Marvel holds at number 1. Alita's still in the top 10. And by March 22nd, it's at number 10. Further exacerbated by the release of Us, the Jordan Peele film. And then as we get into the end of March, we get new releases. Dumbo. As we get into April, we get Shazam. Yeah, and then obviously the last week of April is Avengers Endgame, and by that point, it's barely hanging on. So, definitely also a period of time where like every week in the summer had a blockbuster released and lots of stuff was happening, and it was a very difficult thing to kind of parse out. But despite this,
Everyone had to get
It
their
has
movie
pretty-
out before the pandemic hit, Andrew.
despite this, it has a pretty decent box office run. Like, this is not bad. I'm powering right past that. Sorry. It ends up making $405 million. It's unfortunately tops out 85 in the United States, which has to be a disappointment. I'm sorry. But then it makes $319 million in other countries. So total box office worldwide, $405 million, production budget of $170. So we're probably looking at a slight profit. Some say that it was still a loss as high as $50 million. Basically, the amount of money the movie needed to make gestated and varied pretty heavily during its release. Obviously, it's a production budget of 170, but there are people that said it needed to make as much as 500 million to break even, and I don't know if that's the James Cameron of it all. I don't really know, but needless to say, not quite the box office haul I'm guessing they were hoping for with such a high price tag, but still respectable nonetheless, especially for something like this that maybe didn't quite have the built-in audience that people might have thought.
The movie is written by James Cameron, which is just
Not familiar.
wild to say, as well as Lita Kalogridis. Now, James Cameron's first build, but I think Lita does the bulk of the heavy lifting here. At least gets the process started. So she's been in the business for a very long time, worked on tons of high profile stuff. Alexander, Shutter Island, Terminator Genesis, making her an alum of the show. We talked about her at least once before. In that James Cameron circle, which makes a lot of sense. They're collaborating here. And yeah, it's one of like James Cameron's one of the most well-known filmmakers in the world. The amount of movies he's written is rather limited, and Alita Battle Angel is one of them. I feel like that's some good bar trivia to hold on to.
Yeah, definitely. He some of the other movies that he has written and not directed include Rambo: First Blood Part 2, which
I
James
didn't know that.
which James Cameron co-wrote with Sylvester Stallone. There you go. There's another piece
Amazing.
of bar trivia for you. What
Yeah.
movie did Sylvester Stallone and James Cameron co-write together? He directs
James Cameron,
the,
good friends with Stallone, presumably, and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, because that would have been the year after Terminator. So, he also is a writer on Strange Days, which is a film directed by Catherine Bigelow that he co-writes with Jay Cox. Point Break, he's supposedly got uncredited work on. He's claimed for a long time that he wrote the bulk of Point Break. And then that's kind of it. On his Wikipedia, under his filmography, there are 3 official movies he is credited as I guess 4 technically, that he is credited with writing but not directing. It is Rambo 2, Strange Days, and Alita Battle Angel, and then technically Terminator Dark Fate he gets a story credit on. Not a writing credit necessarily, but he gets a story credit. And then everything else he has written and directed. Everything he has directed, he has written. He has never directed anything that he is not at least a co-writer on, which is pretty wild. Even Piranha 2, he's a co-writer on that.
He seems it
pretty wild.
doesn't surprise me. He seems like he likes being having control. So
Yeah.
it doesn't surprise me that that's the case. But a wild thing. Now, this is a passion project of James Cameron. Like you mentioned, he was in talks to develop it for over a decade before it actually comes out. Almost 2 decades. Since the early 2000s, this has been gestating. But eventually his attention goes to Avatar. And as we know, the man's dedicating the final third of his life to just Avatar movies. Once he gets on that train, he's never getting off and never directing anything else. So you have these weird things. You have like Terminator Dark Fate, where he's got the story and the producer credit. And this is the other big one. He's got this project that's been gestating. He's never going to get around to directing it. So he brings in Robert Rodriguez to direct the movie. And like I mentioned, we've talked about Robert Rodriguez before, but I want to pull up his filmography here because it's very, very interesting. I love Robert Rodriguez because I just, and we've talked a lot about like, Kevin Smith and Tarantino, guys that got their start by just grabbing a camera and going out there and doing it. And I think, not to take away from the other two guys I just mentioned, but like he is like really the epitome of that, and sort of maintains that veracity and style like to this day, even as budgets get big and he does more high profile stuff. Alita might be the outlier. This one's like really, James Cameroned up, but a lot of the stuff like really feels like he's scraping a team together and doing what he knows and just making it happen. So obviously,
yeah, that's the vibe I get when I watch Spy Kids for sure.
I mean, yeah, it's like half of his movies are just made in his own personal studios in Austin, and then
That's true.
it's green screen, and you throw everything in the computer later, and boom, like a very small team. So it starts with El Mariachi. And then that gets him some attention. So he does Desperado, which is technically a sequel, kind of a remake. They do like the Evil Dead 2 thing.
Yeah.
From Dusk Till Dawn, he sort of breaks away from the El Mariachi roots, but he'll obviously go back to it later. And then The Faculty. So those back to back are sort of him like showing he can do like the normal Hollywood thing. And then he almost adopts like a one for them, one for my kids style. The next 3 being for his kids. He has all this cachet from like breaking into Hollywood, and in 3 consecutive years, Spy Kids, Spy Kids 2, and Spy Kids 3D, starring Sylvester Stallone. Wild. I mean, whatever. He made movies for his kids liked them. I don't have much to say about him. But then he goes back to the One For Me thing. He does the Once Upon a Time in Mexico, wrapping up the Mexico trilogy. Andrew, you said something. We were talking about the X trilogy. I don't know. Last episode, 2 weeks
Something
ago.
like that. Yeah,
So
whatever that
recently.
was.
Whenever it was. Who knows? You can keep track of time. And you said that Maxine may not be the best movie, but it's probably your favorite on the rule of cool alone. It's exactly how I feel about Once Upon a Time in Mexico. The movie's kind of a mess, but the characters are so damn cool. The look of that movie is so damn cool. The action set pieces, like, I love it. That might be my favorite one to watch, even if Desperado is the best movie in the series. Really love Once Upon a Time in Mexico. And then Sin City, masterpiece. I mean, as far as like the only film actors on a green screen set digital movie thing that they were so popular in the early 2000s, I think Sin City is the best example of that, hands down. And then he goes back to the kids with Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl. And then One For Me, Planet Terror. And then back to the kids with Shorts. And then One For Me with Machete. And then back to the kids with Spy Kids, All the Time in the World. And then back to me for Machete Kills in Sin City. And Alita. Oh boy, we got like 4 adult movies in a row before he eventually makes his way back to doing the kid stuff with We Can Be Heroes. It's just interesting. Like I love Robert Rodriguez as a filmmaker. I love even like his DVD special features. He has like short film schools where he just like teaches you something about filmmaking. He has cooking classes on some of his stuff, where he just teaches you how to make a dish that he like in his kitchen. I just like his I don't know. I'm trying to like compare him to the other guys. It's like I'm insulting the other guys, but I just feel like he maintained the spirit, but also scaled up in a way that maybe some of the other guys had trouble doing. I just think he's very talented. All that is to say, I like half of his movies. I mean, I don't even like love all these movies, but I love his style and I love that he's out there doing it. So I'm sorry if that sounds backhanded, but hopefully what's coming through is that I just really appreciate Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah, as I've always said, Robert Rodriguez is the M. Night Shyamalan of early 90s auteurs.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an unfair comparison.
No, and like this isn't even talking about like even lately when he's kind of ventured into the Star Wars realm, when he's directed episodes of The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. Kind of got into that Jon Favreau circle a little bit. It's I think your point is kind of interesting, and that he feels like he remained authentic in a way that the others didn't. And I don't know that I necessarily agree with that completely. I think he just scales in a very different way. And I think part of that might just be that he was kind of sticking with what he knew. Like Tarantino obviously like expands his abilities and his scope, and like ends up making these much more kind of wider reaching movies where he starts kind of very focused. Like something like Reservoir Dogs, which is almost a stage play, versus something like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is this sweeping portrait of, 1960s LA. And then like you look at somebody like Richard Linklater, who's another one that gets thrown into that group a lot. And he's another guy that's got kind of a wild filmography and kind of the things that he does and the decisions that he makes. But there is a scale up there, and there's a point where it kind of feels very kind of classic. I don't know what thing. He gets a skill. It eventually develops that skill set into, I don't know, something I guess you would consider much more traditional in his directing style. Whereas it just kind of feels like this is a competent director making a film that kind of just lines up with a lot of what you would expect from a directing standpoint.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith, obviously, something like Clerks. I would put Clerks very similarly on the shelf next to like El Mariachi, in the sense that like, but so I would also say Slacker is in that regards too. Like those three movies are very much guys that like found a camera, looked around at what they had, and were like, I'm going to make a movie using this.
Yeah. And those guys are always grouped together because they came up at roughly the same time. But I think Christopher Nolan's another great example where like Following was made for, I think, $40
$12
a pack of cigarettes. Yeah. And then
half a pack of cigarettes.
Memento was a modestly budget independent movie, and then he almost immediately is just like a Hollywood director. Like, it's just, and he just immediately has like this like, handle on it.
Following is like 98, Memento is 2000. It's like insane the short amount of time between those two movies, and yet the glow up that happens within them from a production standpoint. Kevin Smith kind of never stops really playing in that same kind of similar mindset though, and he's kind of admitted this and kind of admitted that it was something that was a little bit of a limitation. Like he's told the story about like being on set with Bruce Willis, and Bruce Willis was like baffled at how not technical Kevin Smith was. Like he was just kind of like, how do you not know the difference between camera lenses? Like, how do you not know that? And he's like, oh, the DP does that. And he's like, no, man, you got to know that. And Kevin Smith was like, no, like I've been doing this for almost 20 years and I don't know, and I'm fine. But so Kevin Smith has always kind of struck me as a little bit of an outlier, in the sense that it feels like he's kind of developed the rudimentary skill set and then kind of crafted everything he was doing around that. Whereas I feel like Rodriguez kind of starts at that very narrow scope and then kind of finds that thing that he really gravitates towards, and then decides to stick with that, like that green screen kind of technology and the kind of shooting everything in the stick. Because even stuff like Machete still kind of uses that at times. And they all just kind of grow in very different ways. But I think Rodriguez is unique in the sense that like he is the one that kind of feels like, I don't know if this is going to sound fair, but I feel like you're getting the most of his style in the things that he makes. Whereas I feel like with a lot of the others, like, I don't know if there's anything about Tarantino's directing style that makes me think it's a Tarantino movie. Tarantino movies are usually given away by his script. That's usually the thing that, like, is the tell for me. It's not how he uses the camera, or rather, I guess it's the close-ups of the feet that give it away. But it's but like, there's nothing in like the way he moves the camera where I'm just like, oh, that's Tarantino. Like, that's it. It's the scripts that give it away for Tarantino. Whereas with Kevin Smith, it's usually, again, the dialogue. It's kind of at least in his early films, that was kind of what it was, is, it's like, oh, I've been watching a static shot of two characters talking to each other for 10 minutes now. This is a Kevin Smith movie. But with Rodriguez, it feels like there is decisions being made from a directing standpoint that do inform the film, and in a way that I don't know that the others are necessarily doing. But yeah, like, even as you get into stuff like Machete Kills, Sin City 2, all that stuff, like, that style is still there. That kind of rough and tumble, like you kind of mentioned, that kind of very almost it's a rough style, but not in the sense that Kevin Smith has a rough style. Kevin Smith has, I guess, what I would say is a very simple style. Whereas I feel like Rodriguez has a very rough style, but I don't mean that as a bad thing. So it's interesting because the four of them are kind of the ones that I group there, like Tarantino, Rodriguez, Smith, and Linklater. And just looking at where they all are now, it's very wild to me that that's how that is. And
Kevin
it's still
Smith
even wild
is
to me.
like he's like very much like almost like a film student style. And then Robert Rodriguez is the guy that like dropped out of film school halfway through and said, I'll figure the rest out on my own. And then Linklater like went to like the Bohemian Film School, and not like the major university, to learn his style. So I'll just follow somebody with a camera for 12 hours and cut it into a movie. The
irony of Smith, though, is he specifically dropped out of film school. He went specifically because he wanted to get he went to a like film academy, not like a full film school. But the point is, he just wanted to learn the text. He wanted the tech side of it. He didn't want theory. He didn't want, what was Demi thinking when he made Silence of the Lambs? Like, he's like, I don't care. I just want like the quick tech part. And then he went and it was like all theory for 3 months. And he was like, this isn't what I want. So he dropped out specifically because they were not giving him the thing that he wanted. So he just decided to take whatever money he got back from dropping out before a certain date and just put that towards his first movie. And so it's
how'd that work out for him?
Yeah, look at Kevin Smith now, chump. The irony is his buddy Scott Mosier, who was a producer on most of his movies, stayed and finished the class. And the whole deal they made was that, whichever of us writes a script first, the other one's going to help him make it. And so Kevin Smith finished Clerks first, so Mosier came and helped him, and then basically sat and helped Smith make all of his movies for the next 15 years. Then finally started directing his own movies and has made at least one movie that has grossed more than anything Kevin Smith has made. So, but you put Grinch in the title of a movie, you're gonna do that. Okay. The animated one with Cumberbatch. Yes, I think so. But anyway, Rodriguez is super interesting. And I did think it was an interesting choice when he was chosen for this, because I don't know that that's where I would have gone. I don't think I think this project or this story, but at the same time, it works.
I agree. But what I probably thought in 2019 when I saw he was directing it, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. This makes sense for a project for him to do after directing Predators. Because at that time...
Except...
he didn't direct Predators.
He didn't direct Predators.
I don't remember if we had this revelation on mic, but
we have definitely had this discussion on mic before. I'm pretty sure that, like, I if you had asked me before that moment if Robert Rodriguez directed Predators, I would have been like, yeah.
This is stronger than any other Mandela effect, whatever, for me. Like Berenstain Bears, whatever.
This is the only thing that makes me feel like I might have shifted universes. This truly is the only thing. There is no Genie movie starring Sinbad called Shazam. It's Kazam starring Shaq. That's real. It's Berenstain Bears. Actually, let me tell you this. As a kid, I probably would have said it was Berenstain Bears. But the thing is, I was a stupid kid, and my formative memories as a youth of the books I read isn't reliable. But I can tell you for sure, Robert Rodriguez directed Predators.
I feel like I remember his name all over it, which I think it is because he's the producer. But I
is.
feel like it being like not Robert Rodriguez presents. Like I remember Robert Rodriguez is Predator. I feel like I have a memory of like reading reviews about it and people talking about Robert Rodriguez's style, which obviously is not right. But like yeah, that was baffling. Whenever I realized he didn't direct that damn
He
movie.
doesn't even have like. But what's weird to me is if you go to Robert Rodriguez's Wikipedia page, Predators has a whole section. Like it's not long, but like it clearly, like, and it said the film script was based on early drafts he had written. So I don't know if like he was a real big part of the marketing. I guess he was. I don't know. I know that he filmed it, that he directed that though. I know it. I know what I saw.
All right, last thing I want to say about Robert Rodriguez. He has 5 kids. They are all R. Rodriguez, same initials as him. His kids' names are Racer, Rebel, Rhiannon, Rocket, and Rogue.
Those
I
are
don't know.
choices.
That's all.
Those are choices.
Is there something about this group of guys? Kevin Smith has Harley Quinn Smith, which I want to say she was born in like 99. I just recently watched Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and she's she stars in it. And I think she was born in 99. And you got to imagine, like, whenever he's naming her in 98 and 99, Harley Quinn is like an almost obscure character from the animated series. Like, comic book readers know the name, but it's not mainstream. Like, and then, now the movies and everything, she's like one of the biggest female characters in DC, and it's
she's
synonymous,
arguably like one of the most popular characters at DC period now. Like,
yeah. So it's wild. Like, I feel like if she was that popular in 99, he wouldn't have named his kid Harley Quinn Smith. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's always been weird, but I know Tarantino just had a kid too, but I don't know.
Gotta
I don't
have a
follow
weird
Tarantino
name.
much. I'm
He's gotta-
certain that it does. Let's find out. I used to get told I looked like Quentin Tarantino. That always kind of bothered me.
No,
I don't
I'm
know
sorry,
why.
Andrew. Is that why you
Um,
change your hair to red? To
Yeah,
look like
definitely. So his spouse is Daniela Pick.
While you're doing that, I looked up Richard Linklater. His daughter's name is Lorelai. Is that weird? Is that quirky?
Lorelai. I mean, it's a Styx song, but we don't have to hold that against him.
Lorelai Linklater. That's fun to say.
None of these things actually say what his kids' names are.
We don't need to spend any more energy on this. We can move on.
Their son is named Leo.
That wasn't worth it.
No, that's a very normal name.
Okay.
This didn't work out at all, folks. We're moving on.
All right, you ready to talk about this movie? All the positives, everything we like in Alita, Battle Angel. Andrew, you ready?
Yeah. Still can't remember what it was I was going to tell you.
$300 after a world war decimated our planet, a new society has formed beneath the floating city of Zalem. In the scrapyard beneath the city, Dr. Dyson Ito finds remnants of a cybernetic body with a human brain. He surgically combines the head with a new body, and the cyborg awakens, only to find she has no memory of her former life. Dr. Ito calls her Alita and begins showing her around the city. Alita meets a young man named Hugo who explains how the society works, namely that a ruling class based in Zalem keeps the people below in line by employing powerful bounty hunters called Hunter Warriors to track down and eliminate anyone who steps out of line. Hugo secretly steals cybernetic parts for a motorball team that manages players in the deadly sport. It's said that the champions of Motorball will be granted access to Zalem. Once Alita, Dr. Ito, and eventually Hugo become targets of the Hunter Warriors, Motorball becomes Alita's last chance to escape. Did you get all that? You get all that, everyone? There's a lot happening here. I didn't even go over all of it, but yeah, future society,
A
deadly
little bit of Terminator, a little
sport.
bit of Logan's Run, a little bit of Rollerball. It's all there.
Yeah, shake it all up. Baby, you got a cyberpunk stew going. Andrew, we're gonna break it down, but first, you know what we got to do. We're gonna talk about the cast of this film, starting with the high point, best casting, best performance of the movie, because every episode we recognize one person who goes so far above and beyond the Call of Duty that they actually elevate the quality of the entire movie with their performance, and we recognize that person by giving them the Mark Strong Award. So, Andrew, kick us off. Who is getting your Mark Strong Award for Alita Battle Angel?
I believe it is going to Rosa Salazar for her role as Alita Battle Angel.
Wow.
I think
I'm a little surprised you went this direction.
I think this movie hinges on this performance. She's obviously the lead character. You have to buy into this, and it's made even more difficult by the fact that Alita's face is essentially CG. So you're having to act through CG. You're having to portray the emotions of this character and the emotions of everything through that. And I think Rosa is up to that task. Now, obviously, the effects team gets a large assist here, but the underlying performance there has to work, or I think this whole movie falls apart. And so I think Rosa does a fantastic job bringing this role to life, as it were. See, that's a layered joke reference there, but it is done very well. She does a very good job with this performance. Not super familiar with Rosa Salazar outside of this. Looking at her filmography, haven't seen a whole lot else that she's done here. But it is a very, very good performance. I think she is a huge part of why this film succeeds. And in that regard, I believe she deserves the Mark Strong Award.
Well, Andrew, Rosa Salazar is also getting my Mark Strong Award. Echoing everything you just said, the movie really hinges on this performance. And honestly, even if, I mean, the character is essentially all CG, but it's based on her performance. But even if, let's say, there was no motion capture performance or facial performance to pull from, even if it was just her voice, I think she would still be vying for the Mark Strong Award at the very least, because she makes this character feel 1000% real. I mean, I'm going to talk a lot about the visual effects as we go through this movie, but this is hands down one of the best looking movies I've ever seen from a visual effects standpoint, especially when it comes to like CG characters, because I mean, my radar is up, you know, like whenever there's a character that's full CG, like I'm looking for that little uncanny valley, or that this thing doesn't quite belong there. And there's usually a giveaway, even in some very high budget stuff. This movie is the most seamless CG characters interacted with like live action characters I've ever seen, maybe outside of like Avatar, which obviously there's a common denominator there. But it's incredible. But buying into this character as a real character that you care about, and you do, it's this performance, it's the voice, it's the I've watched some behind the scenes stuff. It's very, like, I feel like we're giving Mark Strong awards to the visual effects team as well, because they've got to translate her performance into the CG character. But like, you know, it's her informing it underneath, so you got to give Rosa Salazar credit there. But yeah, I mean, I fully buy this as a character. I care about her. I think she is cool. I think she is vulnerable when she needs to be. She's a warrior and a killer when she needs to be, and plays both extremes extremely well. There's a love story at the center of this that completely works. Yeah, I mean, it's 10 out of 10 all the way, getting my Mark Strong award. I thought you would go Christoph Waltz. I just felt a little Andrew. Christoph Waltz plays Dr. Dyson Ito. He's the person that finds Alita and really brings her back with the new body. Interesting casting. I mean, Christoph Waltz has an interesting career period where he's like just kind of a guy for a long time, and then Inglourious Basterds hits, and he's like the go-to villain usually, but just general guy who's gonna bring a weight to a performance. Like, if like after Inglourious Basterds, if you have Christoph Waltz in your movie is gonna have that extra, that seriousness. That Andrew, what does Christoph Waltz bring into movies?
You're hiding gravitas under the floorboards, aren't you?
Yes. He's the gravitas hunter. Yeah, he brings the It's just funny. Like, his performances before and after that movie aren't that different, but it's like we all just discovered him with that movie. So huge props to Tarantino on that, for pulling that performance out of him and seeing something that seemingly no one else did before then. And I really love that he uses them again right away in Django, and it couldn't be a more different character. Like, he is like a good guy in that movie, and he's still very charismatic and likable and all the stuff you like about him. Like, it immediately shows that he doesn't have to be a villain. But all that said, I still think audiences are always expecting a little bit of darkness with this character, and I think it's a big reason why he's cast here, because in the beginning of this movie, there's a little bit of what's this guy actually up to? What's he hiding? Maybe he's up to no good. Turned out to not really be the case, but they play with the audience a little bit. And I think by casting Christoph Waltz, you lend a little bit of credibility to the fact that he might be like murdering people in cold blood, which again is not the case. But it's viable. Christoph Waltz, but he also has this. He plays a father figure to Alita. Dr. Ito, his own daughter was killed, and Alita is kind of his first chance to be a caregiver since then, and he's up to the challenge, and he's very nurturing and caring and maybe almost overprotective, learns to loosen up a little bit. All the good father stuff you see in movies. But again, just like we're talking about Rosa kind of playing two extremes, Christoph Waltz playing the serious doctor that might have a dark side, as well as a father figure. Both of those very well. And delivers some bonkers ass dialogue totally straight and with that gravitas. Like, the Berserker warrior stuff. Like, the way he has to deliver a lot of exposition, and I'm totally buying it coming from him. It doesn't sound silly somehow.
And that's acting right there. Acting. But yeah, Christoph Waltz is just it's an interesting career. It's an interesting, because obviously, like, when he does Inglourious Basterds, that's 2009, and the man is almost 50. It is. He's 53 when that movie comes out. No. Yes, 53. And so, like, to be discovered at 53, there's hope for all of us. But and then, like, since then, like, he's an alum of the show. We did Green Hornet, which he's in. Right. I may have said at the time, I don't know, this isn't meant to be backhanded, I don't know that he's particularly right for that character in Green Hornet. I feel like that character needed a little bit more self-awareness that he just really kind of doesn't do. But you look at everything he's done since then. I mean, he's in all sorts of stuff. He's in a Green Hornet. He's in Paul W.S. Anderson's The Three Musketeers. And then he goes back to Tarantino for Django Unchained. He does Zero Theorem with Terry Gilliam. He does a Muppets movie. He does Big Eyes with Tim Burton. He does Spectre and No Time to Die, where he brings Blofeld back to the screen after decades of Blofeld not being on screen. He's all over the place.
Did we do Spectre? That's the one we did, right?
Yes. I think we did
we talked about
Spectre.
that.
So like, and then he does Pinocchio with Del Toro, and then he does Frankenstein with Del Toro, and he was just in Luc Besson's Dracula movie that he made with Caleb Landry Jones that I kind of forgot existed, but is out in theaters now, I think. He's worked with Wes Anderson. He's worked with Robert Rodriguez here. He's worked with Alexander Payne. He's like everything. It's like, it's a very, very interesting career to, and then, and I'm sure we've talked about this, but he's in a movie about Ian Fleming called Goldeneye in 1989. That's got nothing to do with the James Bond movie of the same name, outside that it features Ian Fleming. But, you know, it's, and then he was in the most recent season of Only Murders in the Building. So like, dude's just living the dream now. But here he's got, but I guess to have him play like a nurturing character is kind of different. I'm not usually used to that. You kind of expect there to at least be kind of an underhanded side to this character. Obviously, that's mostly informed by like Inglourious Bastards, and then eventually things like Blofeld, stuff like that. But I guess in Django Unchained, he's like, it's a pretty straight-laced character there. He's not really, there's no real underhanded side to him there. But it's like a reward. But it's a great career that obviously takes off massively more in the last 15 years or so. And, you know, good for him. But here he has to, like you said, he has to deliver some tremendously insane dialogue that just feels very difficult and is got to be a tough thing to do. It's kind of like, you know, any sci-fi movie where there's a character who has to deliver a monologue like this. I'm like, I wouldn't be upset if you used cue cards, man. I wouldn't be mad at you if you had to do that. But yeah, it's still a great performance. Obviously, Christoph Waltz is great, and this movie is all the better for him being in it. And he's got a rocket-powered hammer. That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Jennifer Connelly plays Dr. Shiren, who's Ito's ex-wife, who is also a cybernetic surgeon robot doctor lady, but is working for the bad guys these days. They had a falling out after their daughter passed away, so she also has sort of a darkness about her before an eventual redemption before the end of the movie. But I remember Jennifer Connelly showing up this movie and me being like, where have you been? Like, you're wonderful and have not been in enough stuff. She works steadily throughout her career, but a lot of kind of low profile stuff, some indie stuff. I just feel like this was sort of a return to like big budget Hollywood. And then she does Maverick a few years after this, and it was just nice to have her back. Jennifer Connelly, also alum of the show from Hulk, as well as The Rocketeer we covered once upon a time. So we've talked about her a number of times.
Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh, yeah. We talked about her a lot then. Yeah. And the time of this recording, I think our next family movie night has been chosen. Friend of the show, my wife, has picked The Labyrinth. So we will be watching some more Jennifer Connelly in this house very soon.
You better be prepared to talk about David Bowie. There's going to be some questions your kids are asking.
That's yes, we're prepared. I don't know how to respond to that, but
you don't
acknowledged. Acknowledged. That's it. It's great to have her back.
Yeah, I don't think she went anywhere, but I don't disagree. Yeah, she does Only the Brave, and yeah, it's just every couple of years. Then there's something like 2014 where she's in like 4 movies. And it's just weird. But and then she's on that show Snowpiercer for like a main role for apparently like 4 years, and now she's in the show Dark Matter. So she's still out there doing stuff and making a point. And it's not her fault that you don't watch the television shows she's in. So, you know,
you're right.
Get better. It's
have you watched Snowpiercer, Andrew?
No, of course not. Why would I do that? I saw the movie. But very good movie, to be clear. But yeah, her fate in this movie, brutal. We'll talk more about that later. But like,
It's
man,
gnarly.
brutal. But yeah, it's an understated performance. I like it. There's some layers to the character. She gets to kind of get in on the proceedings a little bit, and then like you kind of got this like there's this one note belief about the character, and then she obviously shows that she's got layers. The real ogre of the movie in a lot of ways. There's layers there, but it's a really good performance, and I think it's played differently than I might have expected it to go in a different movie. So I like that about it a lot.
Mahershala Ali plays. Let me see. He's just credited as Blade Screen Test. He nailed it.
Shut up, Jesus Christ! Oh.
He plays a character named Vector that is cool, calm, and collected, morally ambiguous, but he's on the bad side. Dresses in all black. He I think uses a sword at one point. Like he's Blade. Like if you were to want to know what his blade is going to look like, I can't imagine it's that different from this. If we ever get to see him as Blade. But Marshall is great. He's great in everything that he's in. This no exception. This is like a weird, not minor character, but sort of in between the big bad that we don't really see. So we kind of know he's not the ultimate bad guy. He's sort of a puppet, almost literally in some scenes, for the big bad guy. He's like he's like a Goro. He's like the semi-boss, before you get to the big bad guy. But
the Goldar, if you will.
Yes, yeah, Goldar. But it's Marshall Ali, and he's wonderful.
Yeah, he's great. And yeah, it's obviously the movie is setting up for some future stuff that is not coming to pass, but he gets like weirdly possessed by Nova multiple times. It's so weird how that works, where like Nova just takes over people's bodies. But yeah, he's got this interesting spot. He's clearly doing Nova's bidding, has the goals that he's working towards on behalf of him. But yeah, this dude is always great. His season of True Detective is very underrated. And I don't know that we'll ever get to see him play Blade, but I hope it does happen one day because it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know.
Since he has been announced to play Blade, Wesley Snipes has returned to play Blade in the interim, which is an insane statement on a variety of levels.
Yeah, I think they've gone through like 2 scripts. I think production has started
Probably
and
more
stopped.
than
They've gone
that,
through
yeah.
multiple directors. He voiced a line in Eternals, if anybody remembers that. Like, it's been... Yeah, I don't know. We don't need to go off an MCU rant. Let's talk about some robots, Andrew. I guess cyborgs. Ed Skrein plays Zapan. He is such a cool character design because you look at him, he's basically 99% robot, except a very human face. Not a human head, but a human face on a robot. And like a strip of hair. And he's got this super sharp sword that's really cool. He's super cocky and arrogant. And every time I watch this movie, Andrew, every time I have to look up who is playing him because it's like, I know it's not Jude Law, but like this looks like 2005 Jude Law, and I can't get that out of my head. But it's Ed Skrein, who I've seen in other things. Like he's in Deadpool, and I don't think it looks like Jude Law there, but something about, I don't know, just being his face. I always think it is a Jude Law, and it's not. It's Ed Skrein, and he's doing a very good job at being a robot prick.
Very good. I mean, this guy does this in pretty much everything he's in, whether it's Deadpool or whatever. Jurassic World Rebirth, I'm pretty sure he does the exact same thing. So it is just, he knows what he's good at and he keeps doing it. So good for him. And here in this movie, I can say I definitely don't like him. So
Jackie Earl Haley plays Grewishka, who is a huge robot. It's very funny that it's Jackie Earl Haley, who's a very small man. Curious what all they keep. Like, is that his motion capture? Is that just his face on a big body.
I
I'm
don't
not
know. Yeah.
really sure, but I like this character, and this is a sort of rival for Alita throughout the movie. They have like 3 or 4 battles throughout, and he keeps getting put back together to go and fight her once again. Again, very gnarly design. He looks like if you took all the pieces of an action figure apart and then like added an exoskeleton underneath to expand it and make it taller and bigger. Almost like one of Sid from Toy Story's creations. It's bizarre, and I like it a lot.
Yeah. I agree. Jackie Earle Haley is always great, like you said, along with the show. In a variety of ways. He is I don't really know how much of him we're actually getting here. I actually didn't realize it was Jackie Earle Haley for the longest time. Same with many others, I presume. But I love Jackie Earle Haley. Obviously, Watchmen stand out for many. He was the terror on the last version of The Tick as well, which I always thought was really underrated as well, the version with Peter Serafinowicz. But people forget that he was in the Bad News Bears. They have no idea, which I'm sure I said on the last episode we talked about him, but he's a child actor who is still going and still healthy. So I'm glad he's, stuck away from the pitfalls that often can happen when you come into the business too young. But
him and
always
Jennifer
been a big
Connelly,
fan.
both. We got a couple of child actors here.
Yeah. 76. So he was 15 when Bad News Bears came out. But yeah, he's great. I mean, I don't know what else there is to say about Jackie Earle Haley. He plays a giant robot here. He does it pretty well.
And look at the Hunter Warriors. I just want to shout out Jeff Fahey, who's a character actor you might know from every Robert Rodriguez movie. But he plays McTeague, who's he has a pack of dogs, cyborg dogs. That's how he hunts his bounties, with robot dogs. Need I say more? One of the coolest characters in the movie. And he has like his signature like harsh smoker voice, which is also funny to me because you're a cyborg. But yeah, robot dogs. It's awesome.
Yeah, Jeff Fahey's great for anybody that's seen Lawnmower Man as well. So there is.
And,
go ahead.
Is there any other robots you want to shout out?
Yeah, I would like to shout out Motorball champion Joshigan, played by Jai Bless.
Jai Bless. When is this fall in Jai? Okay. It's basically, I don't know, a bit part or a cameo. Where does this fall in the Jai heyday?
It's
This is like
post-Suicide
after
Squad.
his big post-Suicide Squad, post-Die Hard. Is this like, okay, we tried you as the leading man, just take a bit part? Or in 2019, are we supposed to be like, whoa, that's Jai Courtney for
I think
30
it's a
seconds?
bit part.
Okay. Well, Jai Bless. Bringing it back to the humans, Keen Johnson plays Hugo, who's Alita's love interest, and really the other character besides Dr. Ito that's doing all the exposition, showing Alita around town, breaking down Motorball, how the society works, the hierarchy. He is very sweet to her, but we soon learn that he is working for Vector. He's helping Jack cyborg parts for the Motorball team. He's not such a great guy, but the guilt eventually eats away at him, and he leaves that life behind to try to run away with Alita. They don't quite make it out, but he does have the, tries to go straight by the end of the movie.
Yeah. It's unfortunate watching what happens to him. I was really sad that his character, didn't make it out of this. But
it's like spoilers, I guess. I don't know if we need to say that, but it's like, oh man, he's dead. Oh no, they saved him. Well, they saved his head. Oh no, he's dead. It's like this.
Yeah, it's
this fake
weird,
out, like, oh, he lived, and then he dies 30 seconds later.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. Like it's odd. But Yeah. Also is the one that, like I said, introduces the motorball stuff to Alita. A lot of that. And I think he plays off Rosa really well in the role, which again can't really be easy when you're having to kind of play off of a CG performance in a lot of ways. But I'm guessing Rosa was probably on set providing a lot of that physical, direction. But he does a really good job with it. And yeah, what a bummer. It's a long way down, bud.
All right, question for you, Andrew.
Sure.
At what point in the movie did you realize Edward Norton was Nova?
Immediately, because I saw it on Wiki.
Damn. I will say, when I saw this
otherwise, I doubt I would have known until they showed him at the end.
Yeah. When I saw it in theaters, it wasn't until the very, very end where he pulls his little... They look like the glasses, the goggles you wear when you go in a tanning bed.
Like a tanning bed, yeah.
Yeah. He pulls those off at the very end. And it's like, oh, Edward Norton. But
little baby glasses, yeah.
Rewatching the movie, like, they show Nova a few times throughout. And, like, the only thing, quote unquote, disguising that it's Edward Norton are those little goggles. But I guess, the eyes are really important for recognizing Edward Norton, because I didn't realize him till the very, very end. Really calling their shot with a potential sequel. Andrew, let's talk about this movie. Okay, let's just jump right to the best scene of the film, or at least our personal favorite. In your opinion, when is this movie firing at all cylinders? What is the best scene in Alita Battle Angel?
I think for me, it's the bar fight devolving into the fight with Gershwin, Gruishka.
Greta Gershon?
Greta Gershwin. It's Kenny G. But it's so this is Alita kind of she tries to recruit other hunter warriors to help take down Gruishka, and it all goes terribly wrong and leads to this massive bar fight. And then Ito arrives, and it kind of stands off for a second, but then Gruishka appears with some upgrades and challenges Alita to a duel. And this kicks off another stage of the fight where she goes down into the catacombs of this world, I guess, and has her fight with Gruishka, where she ends up getting pretty heavily battered, which conveniently forces Ito to put her head back onto her robot killer body. Very funny how that worked out. But I love all the action here. I love the very different types of hunters you get. Even Gruishka with his new chain fingers. There's just a lot of creativity in this. Then you, like I said, you throw in Jeff Fahey with his robot dogs, and it's just like, this is just cool. And then obviously, even when Alita is like reduced to like just an arm and her head, like she's still fighting and like she's still not giving up, and like jams her arm through Gruishka's eye, and I'm just like, brutal. And then obviously Ito shows up, and
the movie spins. It's one PG-13 F word. He says, "Fuck your mercy." I don't know if the movie needs that, but it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. I mean, movies don't need a lot of stuff, but anyway, it's very, very cool. And I like it. It's just, it shows off everything Alita's capable of. And this is even before she gets like the fully upgraded body. And yeah, I don't know what's up. It's just cool. It's a very cool sequence that shows off everybody. It's like you're talking rule of cool or whatever, but like it's just very cool watching all of this unfold as it does.
I think I gotta agree with you. I think this is also like the high point of the movie, because we've had like hints that like Alita, like we're learning more about her true nature. We know that she can fight. She was designed to be a warrior. But this is the first time you see her go like all out. Like she's taken down some hunter warriors, but she has the like Zapan is trying to like say like, you're wasting your time. You'll never be one of us. You can't just sign up to be a hunter warrior and expect us to, rally around you. And she like doesn't break a sweat, and she takes Zapan down. And she like kicks his sword into the wall, his sword that is actually an sword, and she eventually gets possession of it later. But the very first thing she does is she pulls like a Joker from the Dark Knight and slams his face into the bar, and because she knows he's very vain. And I love the line delivery where he's like screaming in pain and like stumbles off screen and says, "This bitch broke my nose," and she just turns to the crowd and says, "Yes, I did," before pleading her case, like, who's gonna join me? It's good. I love the absolute confidence, and then she has the skills to back it up. She cleans up, takes out everyone in the bar, and then we have to acknowledge, Andrew, that like we're both highlighting this as our favorite scene, and in the middle of this scene, a dog is killed.
I didn't like that.
If you go to doesthedogdie.com, isn't like a website to look up movies if the dog dies?
I don't like it.
This movie is in the yes. We don't see it happen on screen, but there's the stray dog we saw earlier in the movie that wanders into the bar, and whenever Gruishkin shows up, he murders the dog. Now, I don't necessarily like it either. I like doggies, but the dog's blood is running along the floor, and Alita puts 2 fingers into this blood and rubs it underneath each eye to make her war paint. And that's pretty cool. That's
pretty metal. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty metal. Like I said, they go like underground for the next stage of the fight. It's very video gamey. It's very like ascending to the next level, or I guess descending in this case, to fight the boss of this stage. And it's cool. There's all these great shots of him throwing those, would you call them finger spears? Chain fingers. He's like Scorpion times 5. These cool slow-mo shots of them spiraling through the air and her twisting and turning to dodge them. And then that final one where it does actually slice her up, and you realize, like, in slow-mo as her body starts falling to different pieces, that, like you said, she's down to just a head and an arm, and manages to take him out with just 20% of her body there. It's pretty great. It's it's a lot of fun, and a pretty action-packed movie with a lot of cool action scenes. I'm agreeing with you that this is probably going to be top of the list for me too. I'm very curious where I feel like I can see a lot of James Cameron and a lot of Robert Rodriguez in this movie. Like, the absolute polish and visual effects is very James Cameron. Like, it is just top-notch, high-level stuff, especially, like I said, integrating CG characters with live action. But things like, there's a guitar player early on in the city that has a double neck guitar and like 2 extra robot arms, the robot fingers playing it, and playing sort of like a mariachi style guitar. I'm like, well, that's very Robert Rodriguez.
That's very Rodriguez, yeah.
Yeah, through and through. A lot of these designs, like the why do I keep forgetting what we call it? Finger spears? What would you call them?
Chain fingers.
Chain fingers. Chain fingers. You mentioned the rocket propelled axe that Dr. Ito uses. A lot of these feel very inventive, gadgety things that Rodriguez uses in a lot of his movies. So, I would love to see like the pie chart of like what's from the manga, what's from Cameron, what's from Rodriguez. It all blends together pretty seamlessly though. Like this feels like a very unified movie. I think it does a great job world building. Like, we have this sort of this city that's like full of culture, but no single culture that we recognize in our world. It's just like a hodgepodge blend, because that's what it is. It's like a bunch of nations that have come together in the aftermath of this war, and you see like Spanish culture and Chinese culture and everything in between. And it feels very lived in and authentic, even though it's not a one-for-one that anything we know. Like, that is some really good world building. It also does the Star Wars thing where we have like super advanced technology, but it's kind of dirty and lived in and broken down and being repaired. Like, it's not all like awe-inspiring to these characters. It's their everyday life, and the movie sells it very well. I was really watching the movie this time, really taken with like the pace that this movie moves, because it's a little over 2 hours, but it covers so much ground. Like it builds this world, it tells this story, and it's moving at like a very heavy clip. And I'm gonna say kudos to Rodriguez for really wrangling it and keeping the train on the tracks. Like there's some stuff in the end I already mentioned, like Hugo's death. It feels a little rushed, a little like maybe we jammed 2 stories into one here. But by and large, I think it's doling out the exposition and world building very brisk pace, but very efficiently.
I agree. You're going through a lot of information here. You're setting up a lot of pieces. You're setting up a lot of pieces of this world, and being able to kind of do that in a way that gives you what you need without feeling like you're but still making it feel like it's real and that it exists, is very well done. The way they weave in some of the older aspects, like, the ship that they find Alita's body in just being this thing that's always been there. It's, they don't even think about it in a lot of ways. It's not an easy thing to do. And, something like somebody like James Cameron with stuff like Terminator has a lot of experience doing things like that, where you're building out this kind of future world that you have to give enough information on, but you don't want to just, painfully slow the movie down. I think that's done really, really well. And so 2 of the things I kind of liked, and these are things I mentioned, Logan's Run and I mentioned Rollerball. So I'm just going to talk about those things now. When they first mentioned Zalem, I immediately thought of like Logan's Run or something like that, where like there's this little nugget that they give to people, like, like Running Man. The whole idea, if you win Running Man, you get to go on your dream vacation and you get your freedom and everything.
This just out of reach paradise.
It's just out of reach paradise.
The island is the same thing with a lotto,
which is obviously just like Logan's Run. The island is basically Logan's Run. But a lot of things are basically Logan's Run when you really think about it. But
whenever I exercise, it's basically Logan's Run.
But oh God, I hate you. That was good. I'm sorry. That was good. Oh man, I almost blew right past it. I was like, "What? What are you talking?" Oh man. Very nice, very nice. But and just the idea of like a dystopic society that has this little nugget of a reward. The idea that if you get banished out of Zalem, or you can't go back, or the idea that if you were never there, you can never go there. And they don't, like, it's always, to me, it's very much implied that you can't get back to Zalem. Like, it's always how it was. But, the movie kind of plays a little bit more coy with that and suggests that it's not something that's impossible until you realize that you can go back to Zalem, just not as a whole person, basically. Basically, Nova only allows people to return to Zalem if he thinks that he can use their body parts for a purpose. This is really driven home when we see what remains of Dr. Sheeran, when we find out that she's now basically been reduced to a bunch of organs in a briefcase, which is brutal.
It's literally like a brain
and eyes,
2 eyeballs, and I think like her hands are like disembodied and in that
absolutely
briefcase.
Brutal.
So cool.
It's one of those moments in the movie where I was just like, whoa, like, you shouldn't be surprised given everything else you've seen to this point, but it still felt kind of brutal. Like, it almost felt like too much. I was like, whoa, easy now, guys. In your movie about robots murdering each other, this is a little much. And so you basically find out that it's an endless reward that you're never given, that you can never get to. And even if you do get to it, you're not going to like how you get there. And I just like that. I think it's a cool, obviously it adds to the class aspect of it. And then Rollerball's the other one. And I'm sure I've talked about Rollerball on this podcast before, correct?
Yes.
So like, I've always loved Rollerball.
The
James
Chris
Caan
Klein
film.
movie, LL Cool J.
Die in a tire fire. Slow burn. But I've always really loved Rollerball. Now, obviously, there's the sport Rollerball, which is basically exactly like Motorball, The ideas are very similar. Circular track. You got a ball that you're just trying to get into a goal, and in between that, you can beat each other up and try to stop it. Just
like
a really amped up
basketball and
version.
hockey and roller derby.
Like roller derby, kind of mixed with a little bit of basketball. Yeah, it's not particularly original, but I've always really loved rollerball because there's a story and a logic to rollerball that I think is very interesting and builds into that world that I think kind of gets lost because a lot of people focus on the rollerball aspect and don't. And this is something I think the remake gets very wrong because it misses out on a lot of this. But the whole purpose of the sport rollerball is that it's designed to be a sport that nobody can be good at. Basically, it's meant to suppress individuality. There's no stars of rollerball. So the whole premise of rollerball is that somebody becomes a star at rollerball, which you're not supposed to be able to do. The sport is supposed to be brutal enough that you basically age out or die before you can develop enough of a following to become famous. And so when this guy becomes famous, they're desperate to get rid of him because they're afraid of what he will mean for their grasp on society. Which is a very heady movie for your sport about murder roller derby. And you find out that there's this whole big conspiracy that's essentially unfolded to suppress information, to censor information, and just remove whole things of data. Like James Caan's character tries to go out and find more information about these things in the past of his world, and they're not there. He can't find them. And it's this, and then the movie kind of culminates in this very this very poignant, powerful moment that I really, really love. But so seeing Motorball here, you realize that there's a lot of analogs there because Motorball is very similar, something that's meant to distract the masses from the kind of conditions that they live in, similar to what Running Man is. Running Man is meant to be something that distracts people from the corporation. And it's obviously a very similar sport just in terms of mechanics, but the idea that it's meant to keep you suppressed, keep you guessing, keep you not going through that. It's a lot of similar analogs there. And so it is pulling it. So I'm curious a little bit, it's a little bit of an experience where I'm like, is this a bit of a, because like the manga is like 1990, and so things like Logan's Run and things like Rollerball already existed, but taking things and remixing them and figuring them out, that's not a new thing. And I'm curious how much of that might be stuff that was added for the movie versus stuff that's evident in the original manga. So but
One day
I
I'll
always
read
love
it, Andrew, and I'll let you know.
I love a good dystopic story. I love when they add these sorts of things like this idea of a reward or this idea of a sport or something. It just, again, it makes the world feel more lived in. Like this is not like Motorball is not just a sport that professionals play. Like there's literally rec league Motorball, like that
Yeah.
Alita gets introduced to the game with. So
Which
like
technically is the only Motorball game we see in the movie. It's the only time you get like a grasp of how it's played. Like they're doing laps, they're on roller skates, they're putting the ball in the goal, it shoots it out. Because by the time we see Alita in the big leagues, it's not actually a game, it's everyone trying to kill Alita.
right.
So the only
And
time
then
we see the
other-
sport getting played is like in the streets.
they show up to that game one time and she kind of gets to go into the pit, but again, we don't really see the game. We don't really see how
We
it's
don't
played.
see it, yeah.
And so yeah, it's just I like those touches because it's one of those things where it just shows we're putting some work into this world and making it feel real. And I'm always gonna like that. It's cool.
It's very cool. Speaking of that, Alita being in the Motorball game, and they're all Hunter Warriors. They load up the game of Hunter Warriors and put a bounty on Alita's head. So they don't actually play a Motorball. She's just trying to survive. I love the designs of all these characters. Some of them, like I think Screwhead shows up. Some of them we've seen before. Some of them are brand new. It's all like, you ever played Twisted Metal? The character of Axel, who's like a guy that's the axle of two giant wheels. A lot of them are like this hybrid vehicle person, cyborg machines. It's very bizarre. I love those designs. But this sequence reminds me a lot of Speed Racer. I think it's because the way the track is designed and sloped and shaped, it's very much like Speed Racer tracks.
The design, the look of it has a very similar vibe to at times where like you've got that, it's night, it's very
Yeah. have like that half pipe style, the sliding up and down, and it's very cool. And she murders a bunch of people with the ball in the game, and then she breaks out of the arena, and they're like skating down these giant pipes in the city. It's very fun, cool sequence. What she's doing is trying to get to Hugo, who's being hunted by what's our pretty boy's name? He's being hunted by Zapan, and she catches up to him and she saves him because she's a hunter warrior, so she's gonna kill him herself and collect the bounty. At least that's what she tells Zapan, who ends up stabbing Hugo in the belly to sort of start the process of his kill. And she takes him into like this church. Jennifer Connelly shows up. She, cuts his head off, connects it to Alita so she can be kept alive, or excuse me, he can be kept alive, his head. And then she comes out, she fakes the bounty by showing his severed head, but Japan sees that he's actually connected to her. And when Japan tries to expose it and take him, I forget the robots are called, the Century robots that are looking on, accuse him of trying to steal a bounty. And with that distraction, Alita steals his sword and cuts off his face in a way that I've never seen before, and that you can probably only really do with a cyborg, because you would expect him to cut it off like from chin to forehead, and like his human face entirely comes off, but instead it's at an angle. She cuts like half of his mouth into his cheek off and like half of his eyeball, so like a quarter of his face falls off, and like he's screaming about her cutting his face off, and you see like his tongue and his teeth as he's doing it. What a cool design. What a cool way to cut someone's face off.
Yep. When I saw that, I was just like, brutal. There's a lot of moments in this movie where I'm just like, man, that's brutal. And the thing is you get away with so much of it, I think, because they're all robots. So like there's no blood, there's no gore necessarily, because basically everybody's a robot, or everything's being done in a very clinical way. But there's some wild body horror-esque stuff happening in this movie that is kind of handled very casually. Just because that's kind of the nature of it.
Okay, here's the one that freaks me out the most, Andrew.
It's not the disembodied eyes in the brain.
Not that. Alita goes to Hugo's apartment. This is when she has her new body. And she is like professing his love to him. Let's run away together. I'm dedicated. I'm all yours. I'm in this 100%. She's like, you can have this. And she opens up her chest and pulls out her beating heart with the robot arteries attached to it. But while it's out of her body, we hear her heart beating. I can't handle that. I don't know what, it makes me very queasy to hear a heartbeat. And while that's on screen, the heart's beating like super loud, and she's like holding her heart in her hand. Like I've got to like look away just from that sound. I've probably shared the story on mic before, but when I saw it Chapter 2 in theaters, there's this fight in the end where like the entire fight you hear like the heartbeat. And I was like about to pass out in my seat. I had to like look away from the screen and like distract myself. I don't know what it is. Heartbeats. Because the thing about your heart, Andrew, that thing's been beating since longer than you've been alive, since before you were born. It's like the first thing to activate in your tiny little body as a beating heart. Like every moment you can think of in your entire life, your heart was beating in that moment. It's when you're asleep, it's when you're awake, it's until the day you die. The muscle is constantly beating. Things aren't supposed to work that long. It freaks me out.
I watched a movie once called Constantly Beating. It was a documentary.
Okay. What was it about, Andrew? I'm scared to ask.
It's a whole series. You can look it up. It's first off, you're bordering on the line of like making me start to question what is human existence. And Chris, I don't want to do that, so please stop. To me, this is not about heart beating or anything like that. It's starting to get into the qualification of like what is human life and how the evolution of life on this planet has led to me being in a place where I buy a second copy of Dogma on 4K because I'm a fucking idiot.
Why do you have a second copy?
This one's from the UK.
What? Don't you have the Steelbook?
I do.
Why do you have a UK one too?
I don't know.
Just for different artwork? Because that's not a steelbook, is it?
I don't think so. Let's find out. No.
You don't think
Yes.
so? You bought it.
I ordered it off Amazon UK. Didn't think about it. It's got a nice holographic cover, though. I
Oh
got the
my
variant,
God.
Chris. I got the variant cover. That's a comic book reference for you folks out there. But Chris, I've already told you before that I hate that I'm this way. I've already talked about how I'm going to have 3 copies of the Better Tomorrow trilogy by the time this is all said and done. But
Well, Andrew,
anyway.
you're in this mindset. You should definitely watch Ghost in the Shell. I know you've got a steelbook of that, but the entire point of that movie is what is human life in a world where we have cybernetic bodies and digital existence.
So
and
avoid it at all costs. Got it.
How do you know that
but,
your soul is still your soul and not just a digital copy you're programming? Yeah, it's a trip, but
no soul,
a lot
no
of
problem.
similarities with this movie.
Because redheads don't have them.
Mm.
Anyway, I thought the heart scene was really weird because she's like, I can get a different one, and I'm like, can you though? Like, she's like, you could sell my heart and we'll get so much money, and it's like, yeah, but like, you won't be alive if he does that.
I mean,
What do
that's her second heart in the movie. We've seen her have 2 hearts already. Presumably, there's a third one before that. So yeah, there's other hearts.
No,
around.
because she has the other heart because it's her torso that survived. She has the heart already. It's the body that changes. Because he makes a mention of the heart earlier in the movie being this massive power source before she gets to the body.
She already had the heart. Okay, fair enough. Okay, hey,
It's starting to sound like Alita's just an idiot. Anyway, that's enough thinking about existence, Chris. I got enough problem.
All right, so at the end of this movie, Hugo gets saved. His head gets saved, but as soon as he has a robot body, he immediately tries to just run up to Zalem. There's these giant tubes that send materials up. He thinks he can just walk on a tube. Now that he has a robot body that can't get tired, he mentions earlier in the movie, if I was as strong as you, I would just go up there. So he's going to try to run his way up there, but Alita knows, now that she's recovered some memories, that there is a defense system on those tubes that will cut you to pieces. So she's chasing after Hugo, pleading him to come back down. Basically saying, don't worry about Zalem, doesn't matter where we go as long as we're together. And he seems to be convinced by her, but that's when the blades come. And they chop him up, and now he is reduced to a head and a torso. He's falling off, Alita grabs his arm, but his robot arm starts to break. We see what's about to happen. I love this movie. Criticism, this all feels kind of rushed or tacked on and maybe should have been the next movie. But I do like the line where right before he dies, he says, "Thank you for saving me." And then his arm comes off and he dies. Because obviously he's not saying, "Thank you for saving me, thank you for grabbing my hand." He's saying, "Thank you for giving me a purpose. Thank you for saving me from the life I was leading. Thank you for showing me a better way." And it's a nice little moment. After this, we're in wrap up mode. We see Alita preparing for a motorball game. Some time seems to have passed because she is now the reigning champion. She has a ton of fans. The most anime thing this movie does is when she's in the locker room before thinking about Hugo, a tear falls, but then she slices the tear in two with her blade that can cut at the microscopic level. Slow motion cutting a tear in half. Super cool. She heads out to the stage, points her sword up to Zalem, and that's when we see up in Zalem, what's his name? Nova looking down at her, take off his goggles. It's Edward Norton. Credits. Certainly when I saw this in theaters, I wasn't watching my clock. I wasn't expecting the movie to end right here as it's ramping up. But I think it does a good job of feeling like we're wrapping up a story, but also letting us know this is a ongoing epic and there's more to come, presumably. But it doesn't feel like half of a movie by any means.
Yeah, it's not a
Spider-Verse?
across the Spider-Verse type situation where like you're ending on a very clear cliffhanger or something like that, where you've got this like obviously, you know, Edward Norton playing Nova is clearly not something that was meant to just be a one-off. Like clearly that was meant to come back and be a bigger factor going forward. And unfortunately it was not. Although I like on Wikipedia it says the sequel is in development with no annotation. It's like one of the few lines on there that's got no backup source for it.
I mean, as recently as like the past year or so, like they'll talk about it, but like I am not getting any hopes up for a sequel. I mean, certainly if James Cameron wants it to happen, it'll happen. But the dude's making 12 Avatar movies. Like I
mean,
we'll see,
in November
whatever.
of last year, Cameron apparently stated that he and Rodriguez were working on a script. So like, and apparently this had like, hold on, I got to see the details here. James Cameron, blah blah blah. He hasn't forgotten. Penned and produced Alita Battle Angel. Brought the first chapter. Okay. Well, there sounds like we'll start. I appreciate the loyalty of Alita fans, Cameron told Empire in a brand new interview. Robert Rodriguez and I have sworn a blood oath to do at least one more Alita movie. In fact, we're thinking of an architecture that bridges to a third film, but we'll be satisfied if we can make one more, and we're making progress on that. So,
I mean, working on a script, it's not even greenlit. Like it's just it.
Apparently, he lives 3 miles from Robert Rodriguez now. So,
interesting.
Apparently, Cameron wants to do it, is what we will say. But and that was just 3 months ago. So I don't know. Obviously, if they don't even have a script yet, you know, maybe in time for the 10-year anniversary, we'll get movie 2. I do like the ending of this movie, though, because it also again reminds me of Rollerball, because the end of Rollerball, which I'm going to spoil the 50-year-old movie for you now. What happens in the final Rollerball match is basically James Caan's character refuses to give in to like the energy corporation's demands. The corporations that basically run the planet. He refuses to stop playing Rollerball. And basically, like I'm not going to stop doing the things I'm doing. You can't make me, basically. And they're like, fine. So for the last several games of the season, they basically get rid of all the rules, and they're basically begging someone to kill him, because that will they can move on from him if he's dead. The problem is this is James Caan in 1976. Don't mess with him. This dude's already been offed in The Godfather. He's got stamina for days. But so the final match, like just devolves into pure violence, basically. Like they're just trying to kill each other. And it comes down to him and one other guy. It's him and 2 other guys, and he takes out both of them. And he goes to kill the last guy with the rollerball, which is this giant metal ball, and then he stops. Because that's the other thing he knows the corporation wants, is they want him to like besmirch his own image. And if he does that, he's going to give in to what they want him to do. So he just goes up, scores the final goal, and then wins the match, being essentially the only standing player left on the field, and then just skates around while the crowd chants his name. Just that individuality that he still has, basically being the thing that they can't defeat. So he wins the match, but there's a greater victory. And with this one, I like it too, because she's obviously become the successful motorball player, but she has her eyes towards what the real threat is, and it's Nova. And I don't know how Nova sees that match from all the way up there. I guess those glasses are really good.
Yeah.
But it's really impressive. But just
goggles.
a very thematically similar, where like the victory, and in this case, obviously the threat still exists, but there's a much bigger looming threat. But in that moment, there is a victory, and but the eyes are still on the prize in a way.
Roughly halfway through this farewell tour, taking our time, doing it right. I'm having a good time. I'm just happy you finally seen Alita Battle Angel. Andrew, and maybe this is the kick in the butt I need to finally read those read those books. Maybe I'll get around to that. But next week, it's your pick. You're making me watch a movie for the podcast, and you've chosen Attack the Block, a movie that we can't talk about right now because I haven't seen it yet, and you don't want me to know anything about it until I sit down and watch it. But you excited to talk about this one, Andrew?
Yeah, I am beyond excited to talk about this movie. I love this movie. This movie is absolutely fantastic. It is just an absolute blast in every conceivable way. It's got, obviously it's directed by Joe Cornish. It is written by Joe Cornish. It stars John Boyega in one of his first kind of early kind of leading roles. It is, I think, possibly his first leading role, but it is just a blast in every conceivable way. And it baffles me that it wasn't a bigger deal. It's I used to have a Tyler Stout poster for this movie that I actually loved, and I think I got to rebuy. I gave it to a friend as a gift because she loves this movie more than I do, but I've considered like just buying it again because I love the movie that much. But it is just a blast. It is fun. It's funny. I would say you're probably going to need subtitles.
Accents?
Yeah, pretty thick.
Okay.
But it's got John Boyega, it's got Jodie Whittaker, it's got Nick Frost. It's a blast. I am beyond excited that you are going to be watching this, and hopefully you love it. Otherwise, this reunion tour might wrap up a whole lot sooner.
The reunion tour, Andrew.
Oh, sorry, we haven't done the reunion tour yet. The farewell tour.
You're 12 years ahead.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to watch it. From what I know about it, it is a blast and a lot of fun, and I like those things. I don't know, we'll see. That's happening next week, and until then, remember that maybe not every movie is great,
but all movies have greatness.
Thank you to Mark Benavides for singing our theme song. You can check him out on Instagram at NotThatMarkAnthony. Thanks to Mitch for the music. You can follow him on Blue Sky. Check out our show notes for his SoundCloud link. And you can check out our store at TeePublic for some best of the rest merch. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend because that's the only way that we grow. Follow us on social media at BOTRcast. Thank you.